Hi, I'm John Persinos, Editor-in-Chief of Aircraft Value Intelligence. We changed the name from Aircraft Value News to reflect the evolving realities in the global aviation market in terms of technology and economics. I'm here at the International Society of Transport Aircraft Traders, the ISTAT show, the Americas 2026 conference in San Diego. Conference organizers tell me that there are at least 2,000 attendees here. That breaks a record. On the show floor, I'll be interviewing experts to get their insights into what's going on in the global market for aviation, for aircraft trading, what's the latest with aircraft values and lease rates, all against a tumultuous backdrop as war rages in the Middle East, stock markets tank, inflation pressures rise, and anxieties increase across the globe. How is that affecting the aircraft market? Let's see what the experts have to say. I'm here with an old acquaintance. His name is Kevin Michaels, Managing Director of Aerodynamic Advisory. They're a prominent aerospace consulting firm. Kevin is definitely an expert on global aviation. You're part of a session at this show, ISTAT Americas 2026, on the supply chain and the lingering supply chain problems exacerbated by geopolitical strife, by the war in the Middle East, aviation inflation, parts shortages, engine reliability problems, MRO backlogs. Kevin, what is the state of the supply chain right now in 2026, and do you expect it to get any better?
So I would say, John, number one, the supply chain is better than it was a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It is in better condition. Suppliers are generally recovering. But having said that, what drives residual value so much these days is this big gap of production. I think there's growing confidence now that Boeing's going to be able to hit the higher production rates, taking it to the high 40s later this year. I was just in Renton a few weeks ago, and it's very clear to me that there's a turnaround happening there. Airbus is stuck in the low 50s with its A320s, but in general, it is in better condition. You may be getting ready to ask me, where are the issues now?
Yep.
The issues now are in engines. I think that's well known and publicized, the engine supply chain. Airbus kind of calling out Pratt & Whitney publicly is very unusual. Mm-hmm. Number two, interiors. And interiors and seats have become a major issue. We are not able to produce enough seats, and more importantly, we're not able to certify the interior configurations fast enough for these new high-density single aisles, A321XLRs that are coming out, for example. So that's a second significant issue. And thirdly, there's a lingering issue. It's more than lingering, it's structural of the sub-tiers in the supply chain. The machine shops, the small part suppliers that have working capital shortages, and they're finding it hard to ramp up with the CapEx requirements, and at the same time being squeezed on financial terms that really erodes their working capital.
Engine reliability has been a problem. I mean, without a power plant, an airplane doesn't work very much. And the geared turbofan still has these chronic issues. Could you address that? You're somewhat of an expert on aircraft engines. Address some of the issues we're seeing with power plants across the board and why that's a real bottleneck for OEM.
Well, I think we're probably we're past the apex of the parking of geared turbofans where they're not available. And we're on the other side of that now where availability is beginning to improve. Pratt & Whitney is coming out with the Advantage package, which will be a update to the configuration in its production units. And then we're going to have customers have the opportunity to retrofit that into the geared turbofans. And that means significant increases in life-limited parts, one of the drivers leading to aircraft being off the wing. So it is still an issue. It's not unusual. I think we're past the peak of that, but it is going to continue to impact the availability of 320neos. I think right now, supply chain and the inability to produce enough engines and spare engines are big deals right now.
There's tremendous demand for narrow-body, wide-bodies, in fact, as well. Airbus and Boeing just can't make them fast enough, especially the single-aisle narrow bodies are very, very popular. Do you think that the surge in oil prices, which inevitably raise ticket prices and curb travel demand, do you think that will materially affect demand for, say, narrow bodies?
For narrow bodies, there is in the long. It depends on how long it lasts. First of all, if these high prices persist, yeah, it will erode demand for narrow bodies. But we're in a world where we have 6 to 9 year backlogs right now. So if anything, it may serve to erode a little bit of that backlog. But we're in uncharted territory right now already. So I don't know that that's going to go away. It'll get at the underpinnings, but if an airline gives up its slots or negotiates getting out of its slots, there's likely to be someone that's going to want to jump in. If this goes on for another year or two of these prices, everything's different. I think what's more intriguing is on the twin aisle side, because I think a lot of people believe we're getting ready for a twin aisle kind of bull market. We've been in production rates for so long. But if you think about what happened and where the missiles were fired and the drones and, Dubai International, where are the twin aisle customers? It's the Gulf superconnectors. And so it's too early to tell. But I think that's certainly one question that we're watching very closely is, depending on how long this goes and plays out, what will that do to the order patterns and the travel flows in the region? Again, too early to tell right now, but it's a question mark.
One last question, and I'll let you go. I know you're a busy guy. Boeing, it's been through a lot of tribulations, reputational woes, safety woes, a lot of strict regulatory oversight, but now under the relatively new CEO, seems to be turning itself around.
Yes.
Comment on that.
I agree. Boeing is turning itself around, and the culture, which is always the super tanker, is hard to turn around a culture. It takes years and years. But the culture is beginning to change. You're seeing it manifest itself in the leadership of Boeing. I mean, maybe not as many moves as many of us would have expected from the outside.
Right.
But on the inside, you can see a palpable difference of what's happening. And it's manifests itself not only in better relations with the FAA, not only in sort of hitting its targets for production rates, in concert with the FAA, but Boeing is treating its suppliers better. You hear that often from suppliers. And just the vibe at Boeing, spending time there is different now. So the key performance indicators that are flowing down to leadership and down to supervisors are different, and they're built more around safety and quality and less about just the strict financial metrics.
Yes, that's exactly right. Incorporating Spirit Aerosystems is part of that, because they can focus more on quality control and safety.
Yes.
And less on sort of the Jack Welch school of management, which is all the numbers in the stock price.
It is. So we're not out of the woods yet. It's going to take many years, but Kelly is the right person to lead this company. I'm biased. I've known him for 30 years. I used to work with him at Rockwell Collins. Yeah. I know what he's made of, and I think he brings the right values in at the exact right time for Boeing.
Excellent. Great interview. Thank you so much. Great show.
Thank you. Good to see you, Val.
Dale Zara, IT manager.
Okay. Dale, we're at the ISTAT Americas 2026 show. I hear that there are about 2,000 attendees here. I believe that breaks a record. Tell me, what are some of the overarching themes that stand out to you at this show? What seems to be the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 major preoccupations of attendees?
Preoccupation with attendees, I think number one is just confirming what's going on in the market. Obviously, we've had a nice recovery from COVID.
Yep.
And it's just seeing kind of what's going to pop first. So what assets, credits are probably most worthwhile in investing in. What's going on with those credits, especially if it's been recent in the Middle East.
Yeah.
How has that changed things? How has it changed the underwriting around various credits, not just there, but also in expanding areas like Europe. And then I would say just understanding a little bit more on broader macroeconomic indicators for longer-term investments.
Let's focus on the supply chain. The supply chain was just starting to mend after COVID, and now the Middle East war broke out. Geopolitical strife is worsening. What's that going to do to the supply chain? What's that going to do for OEMs and the broader global aviation market? It can't be good. Is the supply chain just like permanently in disrepair? Give me some insights.
I don't think it's permanently in disrepair. The industry is very cyclical, as you probably know.
Right.
So I think that what's going to happen is, and it might take some time, but it'll start to normalize. So there's been continuing issues with primarily Pratt on the GTF side, and again with Boeing and Axis. But CFM Fleet had their own reliability issues. This is all for major geopolitical factors that probably played in. Yes, Russia Russia was an hindrance, and now we have some turmoil in the Middle East with kind of U.S. and Iran. U.S. and Israel, excuse me, attacking Iran.
Yeah.
So it's to be determined because it's so early what the ripple effect will be of that in particular. But I think longer term, we probably will come out of this. Boeing is limited by the FAA. I'm sure if they had some of that mandate changed or increased, they will very much like to increase their production, get more Maxes out. And of course, there will be additional uplift values for those newer asset types, and it will probably suppress some of the values on the old type.
Okay. One last quick question. Power plants, the shortage of power plants, the continued maintenance problems with engines, especially your turbofan, and also the huge backlog in MRO work. Will the aviation industry ever put those bottlenecks behind it?
It's a great question. Again, I think that's a little bit to be determined. I think in the near term, it will be difficult because we just need to let this play out. But what I think is going to happen is you're going to see more than likely kind of a 6 to 9 month turnaround time for, say, like a wide body engine. Probably normalize again to maybe the more standard, like 4 to 6 months. The big question that you're asking is when. I don't know if anyone has the answer to that. If I did, I'd be making certain investments I'd probably produce dividends. But I think what's really important to consider is that the industry is very good at pivoting and making the right decisions when they need to. It's just ensuring that everyone is kind of working towards the same goal, which is more, because nobody likes these long lag times, turnaround times.
Well, look at how the resilience the industry showed during and after COVID. So that's a very instructive example.
Exactly.
Hey, thanks for your time. That was terrific.
Thanks so much.
I'm here with Hayrettin Yaz. I'm from Istanbul, Turkey. I've been in the aviation business since 1993, civil aviation side that is, and I do leasing, I do selling, and basically consulting all the major lessors as well as airlines in my country.
So you know what you're talking about when you talk about global aviation. The reason I picked you out of the crowd, one of the reasons is that you're from Istanbul, Turkey, and there's a war raging in the Middle East right now. Turkey is very much in the news in terms of NATO shooting down missiles, etc. The overarching question I want to ask you is, how is the U.S.-Israeli strikes against Iran, how do you think that will affect aircraft values and lease rates, especially as oil prices surge and stock markets sink? What's that going to do to aircraft values?
You don't need to be a genius to guess what's going to happen. We have been here before. Our industry is a cyclical industry. And if you recall, 15 years ago, Adam Pilarski made a speech predicting oil at $50-60 levels when the general public was expecting it to be 120.
Yeah.
And we all said, Adam, what have you been eating for breakfast? Tell us. And sure enough, a few years back, it was $60, $50. And our industry is resilient. My country, Turkey, is very resilient.
Especially as a member of NATO, yes.
Yeah, and we also value our neighbors. Iran has been our neighbor for donkey's years. They're a 3,000-year republic or country, and Turkey is very young, considering 1923 being the republic.
Yes.
But we value our neighbor relationships, and we carry on a neutral role when conflict comes. So this shall also pass.
Yeah.
But what needs to be done is you need to calculate for making a move against a country of 90 million.
Yes.
And you must have the proper reasons why. Is it oil or is it the Islamic Republic? The country used to be the best ally of U.S. Back in 75 or so, the Shah bought 25% of Pan American. He bought the Pan American building in New York. Pan Am flights 001 and 002. One went east, one went west, and did the round the world tour.
Yeah.
And what the Shah did at that time, he took Istanbul out of the picture and added Frankfurt, Tehran. But
Some
we
perspective.
we didn't lose our friendship.
Hey, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Take care.
Enjoy.
So,
Niall Miller, I'm airline marketing with Linshank Financial Leasing. We're an operating lessor based in Dublin, owned by major Chinese banking partners.
okay, now Chinese capital is really moving into the aircraft markets. They've been supplanting some of the Western-based ones, haven't they?
Yeah, they definitely have access to strong cost of capital. It seems to be a strong appetite for deployment of capital in both in APAC and the wider region. So it does seem to provide some competitive financing to airlines worldwide, and we're seeing that ourselves at the moment too.
It seems to be in parallel with their efforts to build a domestic aircraft manufacturing industry via COMAC, right?
To a certain extent, I mean, COMAC probably don't have the production capabilities to see
Right.
the appetite within the Chinese market, and there is a strong appetite within China for investing in the aviation capital space.
Yeah. Do you think that a lot of COMAC's ambitions to break up the duopoly of Airbus and Boeing and to get a bigger slice of the global aviation market, how much of it is hype, how much of it is unrealistically aggressive, and how real are their inroads right now?
I don't know if the roles are just yet, but I would imagine in time they probably will dominate the Chinese market, and whether it'll spread beyond that remains to be seen.
Yeah. One last question, I'll let you go. There's a war raging in the Middle East right now. It seems to be metastasizing throughout the region. Gas prices, oil prices have shot up by 35-40%. How's that going to affect aviation? I mean, that's a killer, right? Higher fuel prices.
Absolutely, more so at the airline level to begin with, but definitely geopolitical risk and everything factored massively into the lessors' risk models, and that will have to be monitored closely, I would have thought.
Yeah, okay.
Great
Hey,
stuff.
thanks so much
No
for your
worries.
time. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, Nielsen Kretley.
Okay.
I'm responsible for business development for IAC,
Okay.
International Aerospace Company.
Okay.
So we paint aircraft in the US and in Europe. We have 4 facilities in the US and 4 facilities in Europe.
What are you seeing with your client base, trends in terms of demand and orders that could say something larger about the global aviation market?
Well, I think there are several aspects of things. I think leasing companies have a big role to play, especially in the future. For us, we're painting aircraft when they transition from one operator to the other. During COVID and the last couple of years, we've been seeing a lot of continuation of leases throughout the industry, and I think in the near future that will change. I think with the oil change prices as well, that probably will change and trigger operators to bring back their assets to leasing companies, and eventually transitioning more aircraft to different operators. That's what I'm seeing in the market.
Yeah, you mentioned oil prices because of the war in the Middle East, which is worsening oil prices. They're skyrocketing. That obviously has a direct impact on the global, on all industries.
Yes.
Energy is a major input for just about every industry, but especially aviation. Aviation is very sensitive to the price of jet fuel, which is the second greatest cost after labor. So
Absolutely.
the whole industry seems very, very nervous about what's going on with the stock market with oil prices, because it has a deleterious effect on global aviation demand, correct?
That is correct. For me, it's like, because the price will go up, they obviously will have to go back to the customer and say, hey, now your price for the ticket will be higher, right?
Yeah.
So basically, they're gonna have to either people will have to make the decision: can I travel, yes or no? For example, for just normal industry standards, I guess. And I think this will be hard for some carriers down the road. And some companies, I'm pretty sure they'll see more Chapter 11, unfortunately, happening
really?
if the situation deteriorates eventually. So I
Wow.
think,
more Chapter 11. Hey, thanks for your insight. That was terrific. Have a
Thank
good
you.
show.
Yeah, take care.
With me is an academic from Purdue University who specializes in studying global aviation. Her name is
My name is Jali.
Jaylene.
Yeah, you can call me Ivy.
Okay, Ivy. Let me ask you some quick questions.
Yeah.
What's your overall impression of the show? What are some of the overarching themes that you've been hearing at ISTAT Americas 2026? What's preoccupying the attendance? There's a war raging in the Middle East, and that's pushing up oil prices. What kind of deleterious effect do you think that'll have on global aviation, ticket prices, airlines? They're going to have to raise prices, which means airlines are going to have to start cutting back. Their travel demand is going to sink. I mean, it's a real wet blanket on the global aviation market, just as it was starting to crawl out from COVID, don't you think?
Yeah, that's true. It's almost the biggest event ever since the COVID-19. So I think the effect is pretty big.
Pretty big, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there an undercurrent of anxiety at the show about what's going on in Iran and the Middle East and with oil prices? Because the war doesn't seem to be winding down, it's spreading even worse.
Yeah, many people are asking questions about this in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I can feel their anxiety. But all those lessors and other companies, they are making very careful decisions.
Yeah. How do you think it's affecting risk management for airlines? Lesson.
I don't know. They just have to be more consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Yeah. Who am I speaking with now?
Phil Nardini with Flagship Aerospace. We're primarily an aftermarket parts supplier, engine material, focused on all narrow body, wide body, anything Airbus and Boeing.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm Fran Antonia from Brickell Asset Management in Miami. We're a engine leasing and trading.
Okay. Let me throw this out there. The supply chain has been experiencing problems again, war in the Middle East, geopolitical strife, the war in Ukraine, soaring oil prices. It just started to mend after COVID. There have been a lot of problems with the engine reliability, MRO backlog. How is the supply chain delays and snafus, how is that affecting your respective businesses?
Affecting it dramatically.
Is it?
Pushes out the return, puts a lot of pressure on achieving the desired returns. I really don't think it has significantly improved since we recovered from COVID.
Yeah, that's one of the recurring themes I've been hearing, especially at the show. The supply chain seems to be in a perpetual dysfunction. Phil, what's your perspective?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of the same. Slow deliveries, MROs, backlog that pushes out the amount of time, the return on the investment. A lot of scarcity on buying material on the market, but the demand's there. The supply piece is the challenge.
The demand is there, especially for narrow-body aircraft, right? The A320, the 737 MAX. It doesn't seem like much is going to dent that demand, especially with the shortage of aircraft. Boeing and Airbus are struggling to ramp up production, and the demand is fierce, especially for those aircraft. You had a comment about that?
I would say the demand for wide-body aircraft is almost as strong.
737, the A350,
A330, 330. There's older technology that is still in high demand. We have new 4000s, CF680s.
Does it look like Boeing has turned itself around? Their relatively new CEO seems to have repaired, at least gone a long way to repairing his reputation and winning back the confidence of customers. So what's your perspective on Boeing?
Boeing is a great company.
Yes, yes.
It made some mistakes along the way, but I don't think there's a fighter aircraft built in the world. So they'll achieve their past greatness, I think.
We're already on the road to redemption. The FAA has been loosening its regulatory oversight, correct?
Yes. Right.
Let's focus on China for a second. China has been pushing its COMAC. COMAC has been pushing its C919. How much of that is hype, and how much of that is a realistic threat to the Airbus Boeing relationship?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is kind of hype at this point. Potentially down the road there might be something there, but it's a pretty tight little. There are not a whole lot of people that are buying into it as of yet. That's for sure.
Yeah, and also it's very much reliant on Western technology, even economics.
They're a long way from manufacturing their own power plants, and the demand for COMAC, I think, will be within China.
Yeah. I know you guys are busy.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Great news. All right, with me now is
Jacob Hardy, Newcastle Aviation.
thanks for your time. What does Newcastle Aviation do?
We're an aftermarket parts provider. We tear down aircraft, tear down engines. Our primary focus is leasing landing gears. We haven't gotten into engine leasing. And rotable pools of components. The Embraer 145, the Dash 8 Classics. We've gotten into the Embraer 190s, and most recently the CFM 56 5B and 7B.
Well, your area of expertise leads me to two questions. First one, the regional aviation market. Regional aviation has been booming. Do you see that boom continuing in 2026, or will rising oil prices and geopolitical strife kind of choke off that boom? What do you think?
Well, when I got into aviation about 10 years ago, and everybody told me the ERJ would be dead. The ERJ 145 would die in the next 5 years, and it is stronger than ever.
Oh yeah, sure is.
We're selling engines for 3 times more than we were in 2020, 2021, 2022, just like everybody else. And I think a lot of our customers that we primarily focus on are over in Africa, flying routes for the United Nations, the World Food Program, World Health Organizations. And those programs are under pressure right now due to the United States pulling back on the United States nation's funding. So we've seen some issues there. Here in the U.S., I don't know how much longer it can stay. I mean, Republic Airways just consolidated with Mesa. You've got the 170s that are booming here. I don't know why it would slow down, other than the fuel prices most recently, compounding with the parts. It's never been better time to sell aircraft components in the regional space. But the prices have gotten out of control. A windshield that has a list price of $55,000 is selling for $100,000 serviceable. Right? And this has been going on for a year, and there's really no relief in sight.
So you're seeing aviation inflation taking hold, and that's going to get worse if the prices will skyrocket.
Right. So that's what I texted our CEO this morning. I said, with all this oil news, and I feel like it's just another thing to compound with the situation. Eventually, you can't be profitable anymore.
Right.
And the government subsidies, a lot of the Embraers are under government's programs.
Right.
You've got the essential air service routes. A lot of our customers fly. Those probably won't be hurt. The government's going to continue to fund that. But a lot of the people who are actually flying operations for, scheduled services, I don't know how much longer it can be profitable.
Well, Embraer, Brazil-based Embraer, has been a real success story. They've been growing like gangbusters. Now, my second question is about the supply chain, which directly affects you. The supply chain has been experiencing a lot of bottlenecks. It was just under the mend after COVID, but now with war in the Middle East and with other problems, the Ukraine war, supply chain seems to be experiencing bottlenecks again, and there's been a chronic shortage of parts. There's been engine reliability problems, MRO backlogs. The supply chain is really the weak link in the global aviation right now, isn't it? Do you see it getting any better anytime soon?
Yeah, I think that's why it's been so advantageous for us, who we are, a parts holdings company, through exchanging and lease programs. We still have to manage our turn times through the shop, but we put ourselves in a good position with working with shops here in the U.S. that had long history of provisioning effectively. So, one of our windshield providers, they've had orders in place for 3 years, right? now they're going to be at the front of the line. A lot of those that were placed 2-3 years ago, we're getting delivery of now, but they keep their order logs so far out. We are still affected, but I think we're affected to a much less degree than a lot of other people are. And in the regional bubble that we're in, you know, the engines have kind of always been constrained on the Rolls-Royce A3007.
Right.
There's only 2 shops in the world that are allowed to do those: ACMA and Standard Aero. ACMA in Portugal and Standard Aero in Paris. A lot of the components are U.S. based as well, so even the tariffs haven't, you know, we thought at first tariffs might be a huge issue for us, and it turns out they were no issue at all. We don't even get to apply for the refund check that everyone's chasing, right?
So the on again, off again, on again, delayed, resumed, the roller coaster of tariffs from the Trump regime, it hasn't really affected you guys.
Not at all.
Wow. Okay. Hey, thanks for your time.
Yeah,
It's
no
terrific. Good interview. Thank you.